A single mother rejected $1 million offer for her small bakery. 3 days later, a fire destroyed everything she owned. Her daughter called her crazy for refusing the money. But that devastating fire and her stubborn decision would soon save her daughter's life and change their destiny forever. This is the incredible true story of how the worst day of someone's life became the beginning of their greatest blessing. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why absolutely everything happens for a reason. Before we dive into this life-changing story, if you're someone who believes that every setback has a purpose, hit that subscribe button right now. It's free, and you'll never miss another story that could transform how you see your own challenges. Now, let me tell you about Sophia and the day that changed everything. In the heart of a bustling city, tucked between towering office buildings and busy streets, stood a small bakery with a faded blue awning. The paint was chipped, the windows were old, but from inside came the most incredible aroma of fresh bread and pastries that could make anyone stop in their tracks. This was Elena's kitchen, owned by Sophia, a 38-year-old single mother with calloused hands and a heart bigger than her tiny shop. Sophia had built this bakery from nothing. 17 years ago, when her husband left her with a 1-year-old daughter and mountains of debt, she had two choices: give up or fight back. She chose to fight. With borrowed money and unwavering determination, Sophia rented this small space and started baking. Day after day, night after night, she kneaded dough with tears in her eyes and hope in her heart. Her daughter Maria would sleep in a crib behind the counter while Sophia worked until dawn, preparing for the next day's customers. The bakery wasn't just a business, it was their sanctuary. Every crack in the wall told a story of struggle. Every recipe was perfected through years of trial and error. The regular customers weren't just buyers. They were family. Mrs. Henderson came every Tuesday for her late husband's favorite apple turnovers. Young Tommy stopped by every morning before school for a chocolate croissant that Sophia always gave him for free because she knew his family struggled. Maria, now 18 and about to graduate high school, had grown up between these walls. She had done homework at the corner table, helped her mother during busy afternoons, and learned the value of hard work by watching Maria's relentless dedication. But Maria had bigger dreams. She was brilliant valedictorian of her class, accepted to 3 prestigious universities. However, they couldn't afford the tuition for any of them. The bakery provided just enough to survive, but never enough to get ahead. Everything changed on a gray Tuesday morning in March. Sophia was preparing her famous cinnamon rolls when a man in an expensive suit walked through the door. He wasn't their usual customer. His shoes were polished to perfection, his briefcase leather, and his presence commanded attention. "Mrs. Robbins?" he asked, removing his sunglasses. "That's me. What can I get you today?" The man smiled. "My name is Richard Blackstone. I represent Blackstone Development Corporation. We're planning a major commercial project in this area, and your property is exactly what we need." Sophia continued working, not fully understanding. "I'm sorry, but the bakery isn't for sale. Mrs. Robbins, I don't think you understand. We're prepared to offer you $1 million for this property. Cash." Sophia's hands froze. The rolling pin clattered to the floor. $1 million. It was more money than she had ever dreamed of. Enough to send Maria to any university she wanted. Enough to never worry about rent again. Enough to start over somewhere new. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. By noon, everyone knew about the offer. Customers came not just for bread, but to give Sophia advice. "Take the money and run," said Mr. Peterson. "You'd be crazy not to." "Think about Maria's future," urged Mrs. Chun. "That's college money right there." But that evening, as Sophia sat with Maria in their small apartment above the bakery, her daughter surprised her. "Mom, what does your heart tell you?" Sophia looked around their modest home. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. This bakery is our life, my dear. It's where your father's memory lives, where we built our dreams. It's not just a business, it's who we are. Maria took her mother's flour-dusted hands. Then don't sell it. We'll find another way for college. We always do. The next morning, Sophia faced Richard Blackstone again. The offer had grown to $1.2 million. Mrs. Robbins, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Think about your daughter's future. Sophia stood tall behind her counter, surrounded by the smell of fresh bread and the weight of her decision. R. Blackstone, I appreciate your offer, but Elena's kitchen is not for sale. This bakery is more than property. It's our home, our history, and our future. The man's face darkened. You're making a terrible mistake. This neighborhood is changing whether you like it or not. You'll regret this decision. As he left, slamming the door behind him, Sophia felt the weight of doubt creeping in. Had she just thrown away Maria's future? The whispers from neighbors were already starting. She's lost her mind. Poor Maria, her mother's stubbornness will ruin her life. They'll regret this forever. 3 days later, at 2:47 a.m., Sophia woke to the sound of sirens. At first, she thought they were passing by. Then she smelled smoke. She ran to the window, and her heart stopped. Orange flames were shooting from the window of her bakery below. Her life's work was burning. Maria, wake up! Fire! They barely escaped with their lives, rushing down the back stairs as smoke filled the building. Standing on the street in their pajamas, they watched 17 years of dreams turn to ash. The fire department fought for hours, but it was too late. Elena's kitchen was destroyed. Everything was gone. The ovens, the recipes, the memories, the furniture, even the photos on the walls. As dawn broke, Sophia and Maria stood among the charred remains. The insurance would cover some of it, but not enough to rebuild. They had lost everything. The neighbors who had criticized her decision now seemed vindicated. See? She should have taken the money. Now she has nothing. If only she hadn't been so stubborn. Maria, covered in soot and tears, looked at her mother. Mom, I'm so sorry. Maybe they're right. Maybe you should have sold when you had the chance. But Sophia, staring at the ruins of her life's work, spoke with a calmness that surprised even herself. My dear, don't say it's bad so quickly. We don't know yet what this fire means for our future. Maria stared at her mother in disbelief. Mom, how can you say that? We lost everything. No, we didn't lose everything. We lost a building, but we still have each other. And sometimes God closes one door to open another. 2 weeks later, fire investigators made a shocking discovery. The fire hadn't been an accident, it was arson. Someone had deliberately set Elena's kitchen ablaze. Detective Rodriguez called Sophia to the station. Mrs. Robbins, we found evidence that this fire was intentionally set. We believe someone wanted to force you out of that property. As the investigation deepened, a terrifying truth emerged. Richard Blackstone's development company had a history of using questionable methods to acquire properties. They had burned down buildings before when owners refused to sell. 3 families in other neighborhoods had lost their homes under mysterious circumstances, all after refusing Blackstone's offers. But this time, they had made a crucial mistake. A security camera from across the street had captured footage of a man pouring gasoline around Sophia's bakery in the early morning hours. The man was later identified as Tony Marcelli, a known arsonist who worked for Blackstone Development. Mrs. Robbins, Detective Rodriguez continued, if you had sold your property to Blackstone, you and your daughter would have signed a contract that required you to vacate immediately. According to our investigation, Blackstone had planned to have you and Maria in that building when they set the fire. They wanted to make it look like an electrical accident. But with you inside, Sophia's blood ran cold. You're saying they wanted to kill us? We believe they intended to eliminate any witnesses to their illegal activities. Your refusal to sell saved your lives, but they decided to proceed with the arson anyway, thinking the building was empty. The full scope of Blackstone's criminal enterprise was staggering. They had been running a sophisticated insurance fraud scheme, buying properties cheap, burning them down, and collecting massive insurance payouts. The families who had been forced out weren't just displaced, some had died in the accidental fires. As Sophia processed this horrifying revelation, something incredible began to happen. The story of her courage in standing up to Blackstone spread throughout the city. Local news stations picked up the story. Brave Baker survives murder plot after refusing million-dollar bribe. The community rallied around Sophia and Maria like never before. A GoFundMe campaign raised $300,000 in the first week. Local restaurants offered Sophia jobs as a head baker. 3 different landlords offered her free space to rebuild Elena's kitchen. But the biggest surprise came from an unexpected source. Dr. Patricia Williams, president of the city's most prestigious university, called Sophia personally. "Mrs. Robbins, I've been following your daughter's story. Maria's courage in supporting your decision, despite knowing it might cost her college opportunities, shows the kind of character we need at our university. I'd like to offer Maria a full scholarship tuition, room, board, and books, all covered." Maria couldn't believe it. "Mom, this is my dream school. I never even applied because we couldn't afford it." But Dr. Williams wasn't finished. "There's more. Our business school has been looking for a case study in ethical business practices. We'd like to hire you, Mrs. Robbins, as a guest lecturer. Your story of choosing principles over profit is exactly what our students need to hear. The scholarship and lecturing opportunity would provide more financial security than Sophia had ever dreamed of. Maria could attend any graduate program she wanted, and Sophia would never have to worry about money again. 6 months later, Richard Blackstone and his associates were sentenced to life in prison. The FBI had uncovered a criminal empire spanning 5 states. Dozens of families received justice for their losses, and millions of dollars in compensation were distributed to victims. Sophia testified at the trial, and her words echoed through the courtroom. "Your Honor, when Mr. Blackstone first offered me that money, I thought I was just protecting my bakery. I never imagined I was protecting my daughter's life. Sometimes what looks like stubbornness is actually God's protection in disguise." The new Elena's Kitchen opened 1 year after the fire, in a beautiful space donated by the city. It was 3 times larger than the original, with modern equipment and room for cooking classes. Maria helped design it during her winter break from university, where she was studying business with plans to expand the bakery into a chain that would provide opportunities for other single mothers. On opening day, the line stretched around the block. Mrs. Henderson was first in line for her apple turnovers. Tommy, now in college himself, thanks to a scholarship he received after Sophia wrote him a recommendation letter, cut the ribbon. As Sophia looked around her new bakery, filled with customers and love, she thought about the journey that brought them here. Every moment of doubt, every criticism from neighbors, every tear shed over the ruins of her old life had led to this moment. Maria, now thriving at university and home for the weekend, helped her mother close the bakery that evening. "Mom, remember when you said not to call the fire bad so quickly?" "I remember. You were right. If we had sold the bakery, we'd be dead. If there had been no fire, Blackstone would never have been caught. Other families would have died. I would never have gotten my scholarship. You would never have become a lecturer." Sophia nodded. "My dear, life has a way of protecting us, even when we can't see it. That fire looked like the end of everything, but it was actually the beginning of everything. Our greatest tragedy became our greatest blessing. But how did you know? How did you have such faith when everyone was calling you crazy. Sophia smiled, wiping down the counter of her new bakery. I didn't know, Maria. I just trusted that if we stayed true to our values, if we didn't let fear make our decisions, somehow things would work out. Not the way we planned, but the way they needed to. The story of Elena's kitchen had consequences far beyond Sophia and Maria's lives. The FBI investigation led to new federal laws protecting property owners from predatory developers. Sophia's testimony before Congress resulted in the Robbins Protection Act, which made it easier for small business owners to report intimidation and receive protection from corporate harassment. Maria graduated summa cum laude and returned home with an MBA and a vision. Together, mother and daughter opened 5 more Elena's Kitchen locations, each one specifically placed in neighborhoods where single mothers needed jobs and community support. They established a foundation that provided microloans to women starting their own businesses. The original burned lot where the first Elena's Kitchen stood was turned into a small park with a memorial bench. The inscription read, "In memory of all who lost their homes to greed, and in celebration of those who chose courage over comfort." Every year on the anniversary of the fire, Sophia and Maria would sit on that bench and reflect on how the worst day of their lives had become the catalyst for the best years of their lives. 5 years after the fire, Sophia received a phone call that brought her story full circle. It was Detective Rodriguez. "Mrs. Robbins, I wanted you to know that we just arrested the last member of Blackstone's organization. A man named Vincent Torres had been hiding in Mexico, but we finally tracked him down. Your case helped us dismantle one of the largest property fraud rings in U.S. history. How many families were we able to help?" Sophia asked. "Because of your courage in refusing to sell and surviving to testify, we've been able to get justice for 847 families and return over $50 million in compensation. Your decision to keep your bakery literally saved hundreds of lives." That evening, as Sophia locked up the flagship Elena's Kitchen, she found Maria waiting outside with a surprise. It was a framed newspaper article from the day the last criminal was arrested. The headline read, "Baker's Courage Brings Down Criminal Empire, the Fire That Sparked Justice." Mom, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had just sold the bakery that day? Sophia looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "I try not to think about alternate paths, my dear. I just focus on being grateful for the path we walked. Every step, even the painful ones, led us exactly where we needed to be." Today, Sophia is a sought-after speaker who travels the country sharing her story. Her message is simple but profound. When life offers you an easy way out that doesn't feel right in your heart, trust that feeling. When disaster strikes and everyone tells you it's the end, remember that endings are often just new beginnings in disguise. Maria now runs the Elena's Kitchen Foundation full-time, having turned down lucrative job offers from Fortune 500 companies to continue her mother's mission of helping families build their own dreams. The bakery empire they built together employs over 200 people, most of them single mothers who needed a second chance. Each location has a wall dedicated to customer stories, photos, and letters from people whose lives were changed by a simple act of kindness, a listening ear, or a job when they needed it most. But perhaps the most powerful testament to their journey is a small sign that hangs in every Elena's Kitchen location. It's written in both English and Spanish, and it reads, "Sometimes what looks like a loss is actually protection. Sometimes what feels like an ending is actually a beginning. Trust the journey, even when you can't see the destination." As our story comes to an end, Sophia and Maria's journey teaches us the most important lesson of all. Everything happens for a reason, but we rarely understand that reason in the moment. If Sophia had sold her bakery, she and Maria would have died in the fire that Blackstone's criminals set. If there had been no fire, hundreds of other families would have continued to suffer and die at the hands of these criminals. If Maria hadn't supported her mother's decision, they never would have had the courage to fight back. Every piece of the puzzle, the refusal to sell, the devastating fire, the investigation, the community support was necessary for the incredible outcome that followed. Sophia often tells audiences, "I thought God was testing my faith when I lost my bakery. I didn't realize he was saving my life. I thought the fire was punishment for my stubbornness. I didn't know it was protection for my daughter's future." This incredible story of Sophia and Maria reminds us that our greatest challenges often carry our greatest blessings in disguise. When you're going through difficult times, when everyone around you thinks you're making the wrong choice, when it feels like your world is falling apart, remember Elena's kitchen. If this story touched your heart, if it gave you hope for your own struggles, I want you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss another life-changing story like this one. We share new stories of hope, courage, and transformation every week. Second, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it's a friend going through a tough time, a family member who's lost hope, or someone who needs to be reminded that everything happens for a reason. Third, write in the comments, "Everything happens for a reason." Let me know you were here, that this story impacted you, and that you believe in the power of hidden blessings. Remember, your current struggle might just be preparing you for your greatest victory. Your worst day might be setting up your best year. And sometimes, what looks like the end of everything is actually the beginning of everything you've been waiting for. Thanks for watching The Day Everything Changed. Until next time, keep believing that your breakthrough is coming, even when you can't see it yet. Especially when you can't see it yet.